Honorable Speaker, Chamasiri Technical and Vocational College was established in September 2019 with the aim of providing quality technical and vocational education. Currently, the institution has an enrollment of 1,700 students, demonstrating its importance in the education sector. On 10th December 2021, the Cabinet Secretary for Education, while on a visit of the Chamasiri TVC, conveyed the government's plan to provide modern training equipment that are through the funding of African Development Bank. However, despite this promise, the equipment was never delivered, and reports indicate that it was redirected to another technical institution. This matter was raised again in November 2023 during a visit by the then Cabinet Secretary for Education, Honorable Dr. Ezekiel Machogu, to the institution, who reassured the institution that the equipment would be delivered by March 2024. Indeed, the equipment arrived in the country in March this year. However, months later, it is yet to be delivered to the Chamasiri TVC. Honorable Speaker, the matter has persisted for 3 years and continues to pose significant challenges to the institutions and its students. The continued lack of practical equipment has severely impacted the quality of education, as students are forced to rely solely on theoretical instruction without the necessary tools for handling the learners. This situation not only defeats the entire essence of technical and vocational colleges, but also jeopardizes the skills development and future prospects of these students. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson, the Departmental Committee on Education, on the following. 1. Reasons why the equipment funded by the African Development Bank, which was initially intended for Chamasiri TVC, was diverted to another institution in another constituency. Number 2, reasons for the delay in delivering the newly received equipment to Chamasiri TVC, despite being received several months ago. Number 3, specific timelines for delivery of this equipment to Chamasiri TVC, including measures to avert further delays in this matter. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chair, Committee of Education. Where is Melly? Yes, 2 weeks, Honorable Maluli Njendi.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. We'll invite the CS to our committee, but I also want to alert member that we usually invite also members when the CS is making a presentation, so that the member can also get information from the CS directly during the committee sitting. Thank you.
Thank you. Owen Bayer.
Request for statement regarding the implementation of a nuclear power plant project at Uyombo, Kilifi North constituency. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44.2c, I rise to request for a statement from the chairpersons of the Departmental Committees on Energy and Environment, Forestry and Mining regarding the implementation of a nuclear power plant project in Uyombo Village, Masangoni Ward, Kilifi North constituency. Honorable Speaker, the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, NUPEA, is a state corporation established under the Energy Act 2019 with a mandate to promote and implement Kenya's nuclear power programs, including carrying out research, development, and capacity building in the energy sector. NUPEA recently initiated the process of implementing a nuclear power plant project in Uyombo, Masangoni Ward, Kilifi, North constituency, and put up a mast at the location. Honorable Speaker, the production of nuclear energy is a delicate and dangerous process that threatens the existence of people in its surroundings. Further, the people of Yombo have rejected the implementation of a power plant project due to risks that will negatively affect their lives and generations to come. This project poses significant risks such as radioactive reactions and leaks, nuclear waste disposal, permanent destruction of the ecosystem, and lack of capacity to handle accidents. Moreover, it will impact their fishing activities and the tourism industry at large. Honorable Speaker, Article 10, as read together with Article 69 of the Constitution, prohibits implementation of any public project without public participation. While NUPEA partially complied with this provision, concerns have been raised to the way the exercise was conducted. The public participation was marred by use of excessive force, discrimination against the people of Uyombo, harassment and unlawful arrests of locals who are apparently being coerced to accept the implementation of the project on their land. Honorable Speaker, Article 43 of the Constitution also entitles individuals whose land is compulsorily acquired by the government to receive certain compensation. Notably, the nuclear power plant project is being implemented on land belonging to individuals, persons who possess legal ownership documents of the land and face the risk of being relocated from their land. Regrettably, implementation of the project without compliance to the law and adherence to the directives and guidelines has deprived the people of Uyombo of their rights in accordance to Article 42 as read together with Article 70 of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, although the project has been proposed to be implemented only in Uyombo, Masangoni Ward, Kilifi North constituency, there is a real existential threat to the whole country in the unfortunate event of a disaster. Many countries have discouraged nuclear energy production and refrained from it due to its dangerous impacts. African countries, including Kenya, have yet to demonstrate their ability to handle nuclear disaster, making Uyombo nuclear project a big risk. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Energy and Environment, Forestry and Mining on the following. Could the committee jointly conduct an inquiry to establish whether there is a breach of constitutional provisions, and if so, provide a detailed report with recommendation on the implementation of the project to ensure proper processes are followed for the safety of the community. 2, clarify whether public participation was conducted within the parameters of the law, considering that the majority views which rejected implementation of such a project were ignored. 3, provide details of the environmental assessment report of the project. 4, also inquire into the arbitrary arrests and use of excessive force on the people of Uyombo in an apparent bid to force them to accept the project. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, clarify whether Kenya is prepared to handle a nuclear disaster, and if so, provide the policy measures put in place to handle such disasters. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Chairman of Energy, Kawaya. Any member of the committee? Yes, 2 weeks. Bring a statement in 2 weeks. Thank you. John Carrier, member for Dagoretti South.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to request a statement regarding the renewal of standardization mark from the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives regarding the renewal of the standardization mark from the Kenya Bureau of Standards, also known as KEBS. Honorable Speaker, in 2023, KEBS revised the standardization mark, SM, permit, extending the validity period from 1 year to 2 years. This change raised concern among businesses, particularly small and medium enterprises, SMEs, as an annual renewal period aligns better with their financial planning, operational cycles, and ensures product quality and safety in a rapidly evolving business environment. Moreover, questions have arisen about the alignment of this 2-year cycle to KEB's mandate of supporting fair competition in the country. Honorable Speaker, it is also deeply concerning that companies restarting operations after COVID-19 related shutdowns are facing back pay penalties by KEBS. These penalties impose a significant financial burden on businesses already struggling to recover from economic hardships. Such measures hinder rather than support job creation and economic recovery, which are crucial for the growth of the nation. Instructively, the regulatory environment should support businesses, especially SMEs, in their efforts to create jobs and to contribute to economic development. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on the following. 1. The rationale behind extending the validity period of the standardization mark and the impact of these on product quality and the fair competition, especially for SMEs. Number 2, justification for imposing back pay penalties on businesses restarting after COVID-19 related shutdowns. And 3, Mr. Speaker, the measures that the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry is taking to ensure the regulatory environment supports SMEs in economic recovery rather than penalizing these businesses that are recovering from the COVID-19 shutdown. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I signed this statement on the 13th of August, 2024. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, KJ. Chair Trade, Kakuya. Vice Chair.
Chair, you can give us 3 weeks.
How many?
3 weeks.
Standard time is 2 weeks. Why do you want 3?
We are requesting for 3 weeks because we know we have the bill on cooperatives that we need to finish.
Okay.
So because of
3
that, we're
weeks.
requesting 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Thank you.
Response to a statement by Adan Kainan, right? Yes. Tongoyo, are you ready to respond to the statement of Honorable Kainan?
Yes, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Member of Parliament for Elders constituency, Honorable Adan Kainan, has requested for a statement regarding the disappearance of the Member of Assembly for Dela Ward, Honorable Yusuf Hussein. And in particular, he wanted specifically circumstances under which Honorable Hussein was abducted and the status of investigation into his mysterious disappearance, which was reported at Makadara police station. And of course, the step that the relevant government security agencies have taken to ensure that the missing MCA is expeditiously traced and reunited with these people, and the security measures that the government has taken to guarantee safety of all leaders in order to protect them from potential incidents of kidnapping and other form of violence. Honorable Speaker, I want to state as follows. On 13 September 2024, at around 2140, Wambua Kioko reported through a phone call via OPIN number 8613, September 2024, the abduction of his passenger. The reportee is an Uber driver and a resident of Embakasi, stated that while within South Sea, Halala Estate, he received an online request from the customer to be dropped at Pangani Heights Estate. However, along Lusaka Road.
Yes, Honorable Kamket, what is out of order? Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the matter the Honorable Chair is responding to is very serious. It involves an elected member. And the decibels of consultations are too high for us to to hear what the Honorable Chair is saying.
Okay. Order, members. Those who are consulting, do so in lower tones. Tongoyo, endelea.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. So I just want to pick from where I left. On 13th, on 2024, at around 21:40, Wambua Kioko reported through a phone call, via OB number 8613 of September 2024, the abduction of his passenger. The reportee, Honorable Speaker, is an Uber driver and a resident of Embakasi. He stated that while within South Sea, Halala Estate, he received an online request from a customer to be dropped at Mangani Heights. However, along Lusaka Road, past Lusaka Enterprise roundabout, and near Ola petrol station, a black Prado motor vehicle whose registration number was not captured blocked them. 3 men who had masked their faces alighted from the said Prado and opened the passenger door of the taxi, where the passenger was seated. They grabbed and pulled him out of the car before dragged him to their Prado. The passenger dropped his mobile phone and make iPhone 13 inside the Uber during the commotion. The abductors further robbed the Uber driver of his telephone number, a Samsung Galaxy A025 make, valued at around 14,000, and a cash amounting to 250, before speeding off with the victim. The scene was visited, and it was established that the abductee is the Honorable Yusuf Hussein Ahmed, the MCA for Dala and Nole Ward, Elder Constituency in Wajir County. Honorable Speaker, the case is still under investigation and the search is still ongoing at the time of writing this response. On the third question, Honorable Speaker, the following measures has been taken to ensure the security. The National Police Service has made as the mandate of providing security to all Kenyans in all parts of this country, and the police officers are therefore continuously sensitizing on upholding the rule of law and constitutionalism. And any leader who is intimidated or harassed is encouraged to report to the nearest police station, and investigation will be commenced without delay. Creating awareness to all members of the public to report any suspicious character within their location, and the intensifying both mobile and foot patrol. And the adoption of multi-agency approach in collection of intelligence and the heightening of security surveillance. So, Honorable Speaker, you know this matter was brought last week before you, and we also share the concern of Kenan and other members from that region that truly this is a very sensitive matter because it concerns an elected leader, and the police are still searching the MCA, and we want to ensure Kenyans and this House that the culprits will be brought to the books, and we are going to do anything within humanly possible to able to bring this person, the missing MCA. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Kainan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you have had on 13th September this month, an elected leader from my constituency, from one of the wards, was abducted. That is 14 days ago. Mr. Speaker, one of the platforms this regime used when they were campaigning was that there will be no abductions, there will be no illegal confinement, and there will be no extrajudicial killings. Mr. Speaker, the statement issued by the chairman, and I must admit that it's just a conveyor belt, lacks substance completely, and it does not allude to the circumstances of the missing leader. Mr. Speaker, here is the situation. You know, everywhere in Nairobi right now there are CCTVs. Everywhere in Nairobi there are CCTVs, Mr. Speaker. Is an elected leader. the road, the Enterprise Road, just next to where this particular leader was abducted, has so many CCTVs, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, by now, those who are in charge of this particular sector know the identities of the tormentors of this particular MCA. They know the details of the cars. They know everything, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while it is the right of every Kenyan to enjoy the right to be heard, the right to be tried fairly, this era of illegal confinement, Mr. Speaker, and abduction is something that has never been anticipated in the current constitution, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this answer, as it is right now, has not said anything, has not shed any light. He only said we are investigating 14 days. 14 days, Mr. Speaker, since an elected leader has, of course, every Kenyan has the right to security, but here is an elected leader, Mr. Speaker. He is still missing. Mr. Speaker, I want to also table, Mr. Speaker, just for the information, that on 6 August, this particular leader was summoned by the County Security and Intelligence Committee of Wajir, Mr. Speaker, and this is what the letter says. The Honorable Yusuf Hussein, MCA, Anole Delaware, the telephone meeting with the County Security Committee of Wajir. You are told you are requested to, I've just learned this, Mr. Speaker, and this is what the letter says. You are requested to attend a meeting on Thursday, 8 August 2024 at the County Commissioner's Office, Wajir, at 10 a.m. The County Security and Intelligence Committee...
Kenan, you seem to be reading from a faded copy of a letter.
It's a copy, Mr. Speaker. It's an official letter. I'll give it to you. I'll hand over. You can counter-check. It's official.
Okay.
And I'm too old, Mr. Speaker, to bring anything that is not properly validated. Mr. Speaker, the County Security and Intelligence Committee wishes to discuss with you issues touching on the security within Dela and Nollywood. I want to table this document, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, taking this into account, this is a lead document. Meaning, therefore, there must have been some issues between that particular MCA and the County Security Committee. If that has been escalated to the national level, we are not saying he has committed crime or he has not committed crime, Mr. Speaker. But if truly this person who has been missing, why don't you produce him and take him to court? And therefore, Mr. Speaker, this answer, and I empathize with my good friend Gabriel, you have not said anything. They have not given you anything. In fact, they are setting you up. This answer has not said anything at all, on the way about of that particular leader. And therefore, Mr. Speaker...
Pass on the letter to him. You have
Yes.
made the point. Bashir? Major Bashir, give him the mic. 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I listened to the response by the ministry concerned through the chair, and I can attest to the fact that that response is very, very shallow. Honorable Speaker, the individual abducted is an elected MCA, and it's not a coincidence that on the 8th of September, he was summoned by the County Security Committee, and on 13th, he disappeared. And I think the era of abductions is something that is still with us, unfortunately. So we call upon the government, especially the security agencies, to immediately and urgently find where the MCA is. The family is agonizing. They don't know what to say. And the worst part is that the National Police Service has not even come to address this matter and even talking to the families concerned to tell them what they're doing about it. We want them to do what they are supposed to do, to protect lives and properties of Kenyans. And we ask them to tell us where this elected MCA is at this point in time. It's now 2 weeks since his abduction. And there are CCTV cameras in the whole of this country, especially in Nairobi. How come they are unable to know who abducted the MCA? The Uber that he has used has recorded a statement. They can see it. He knows. However, the CCTV cameras cannot be traced. It's unfortunate also. So we ask that statement is not...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have listened to the response of the chairman of the committee I belong to. It's not sufficient, Mr. Speaker. It's 14 days since the honorable member was abducted. It's very unfortunate, sad to the people who elected him, to the people, to the county he comes from, Mr. Speaker. We are unable to stay our homes. We are unable to do our day-to-day activities because of this honorable member who is missing. All indications are there, Mr. Speaker, to show that this indeed honorable member is taken by the people we suspect. We demand the security agencies, Mr. Speaker, to bring back our honorable member, to bring back the honorable member for Anole Dela Ward, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we don't know how we are going to go back to our constituency and county if this honorable member is not brought back to his people. It's on that note that I'm asking my chair, the committee that I belong to, Mr. Chair, it's a matter of urgency that we bring back our son, our leader. If today a honorable member is missing, then it doesn't make any sense. Anyone can miss any time, any day, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Tongoyo.
Honorable Speaker, first of all, I think I did actually indicate that I really feel the frustration from the members from the said county.
Had you seen the letter whose copy came
I haven't, and I think as it should be treated, not to be as it is for now, Honorable Speaker, the stability of the letter is in question. Maybe we need your guidance. But having said this, Mr. Speaker, we all know such situations, investigation could be complex. And the members already alluding or making a suggestion that it is the officer, the MCA was abducted by the security agency, which cannot be substantiated either. So I would rather we leave it open. The investigation is ongoing, but we should not.
And on the face of it, the signatory is a DC, or you call them what? Is a county commissioner rather. So get the letter after authentication by the clerk, then get to your team at internal security and bring back additional information on this on Thursday afternoon. Yes.
Thank you so much for that guidance, Mr. Speaker. I want to confirm, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I want to confirm beyond reasonable doubt that that letter comes from the County Security Committee, and therefore here it is. Mr. Speaker, I also want to table an affirmation by one great Kenyan taxi driver called Wambua Kioko. Is also an affirmation, and the oath. I also want to table it because the content is also very clear, so that as the chairman responds to this,
Okay, Nan, the taxi driver's testimony is not disputed. Tongoya said...
I want to give him the whole detail, Mr. Speaker, the whole affirmation,
yes.
the whole, so that, for the benefit, so that he benefits also from this. But Mr.
Okay.
Speaker, finally allow me to say this. You have been around. You have gone through the ladder. You have served the three arms, actually, let me say, almost the three arms of government. You know what it is.
Not almost, I have.
You have served the three arms of government, and you know what it takes. Mr. Speaker, no amount, and I want to Togoyo and other groups to hear this, no amount of blackmail, no amount of intimidation, no amount of whatever somebody wants to do will allow us to forget the existence of Honorable Yusuf Hussein. Those who are holding him, I want them to hear where I am. I want them to hear what I'm saying. We will not allow you to get away with that crime. Produce Honorable Yusuf in court.
Yes.
That is what the due process demands.
We will not allow.
Produce him to court. Produce him in court. Deal with him in court. But hold him in.
Kirinyaga Central, Kirinyaga. Honorable Kaimenyi, women leader Meru, has asked me to acknowledge the Mother Council from Timau. You can do so in 1 minute and welcome the rest of the schools on our behalf. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Yes. I really want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to welcome the Mother Council from African Independent Pentecostal Church of East Africa, of which I belong. They are from Timao in Bori constituency. I also wish to thank them for the forward-looking. As you can see, Mr. Speaker, these are ladies, young ladies, and I want to congratulate them for their efforts, showing leadership even as they are ladies. Sometimes we think the reverse gender is more forward-looking, but you can see they are just ladies from Mother Council. Mother Council is the leadership of that church. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to thank also the students who are here with us and acknowledge them for wanting to have more knowledge even regarding this parliament. So please feel welcome, and thank you again, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on Thursday, 19th September 2024, on my behalf, the Chair of the Health Committee, Honorable Pukose, issued a statement, the usual Thursday statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 17th September 2024, to prioritize business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, it was indicated to the House that the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry would appear before the House to answer questions tomorrow, Wednesday, 25th, 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA 79 in New York. Honorable Speaker, following further consultations, we have scheduled the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports to respond to questions that touch on the following thematic areas. A, state of preparedness of key sporting facilities to host international events. 2, 1, appraise on the state of preparedness of the country in terms of infrastructure facilities and other logistics to successfully host international sporting events, more specifically the planned hosting of the African Nations Championship, CHAN, and the Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON. 2, state the current condition of key sports facilities in the country, including their maintenance, modernization, and suitability for hosting international events. And 3, provide specific measures on strategies put in place by the ministry to accelerate the completion of the stalled or incomplete stadiums across the country. B is facilitation of national sports teams, to state the measures in place to ensure timely preparation, coordination, management, and facilitation of sports teams to represent the country in various sporting disciplines. And C, Honorable Speaker, is a mandate of the Kenya Academy of Sports to 1, appraise on the challenges facing the Kenya Academy of Sports in the development of grassroots talent in the country and the measures to address the challenges. And 2, outline the number of sports academies that have been set up nationwide, including details of their effectiveness at the grassroots level and whether there are strategies in place to ensure their continuity. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Next order.
Order number 8, the Mark Beans Bill, Senate Bill number 13 of 2022, second reading, question to be put.
Order, members on their feet, take your seats. Members on their feet, Busia Women Rep, take your seat. Honorable members, now I put the question at the order number 8, which is that the Mang Beans Bill, Senate Bill number 13 of 2022, be now read a second time. As members of that opinion say aye. As members of the contrary opinion say nay. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, I had promised you that I'll allow you 1 hour to ventilate on the issue of NGCDF, and I'll invite your leaders, starting with the majority leader on NGCDF judgment, and then followed by the minority leader. If we can give them 5 minutes each, then the rest of the members, you can take 2 minutes each. Is that okay? If we say 5 and you have 1 hour, very few will speak. So let's do 3. Kimani Chungwa, you can go with 5 minutes. Junet, be ready with 5 minutes.
not independent, Mr. Speaker. In our place, we say CDF is our government. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask myself, the framers of the current constitution, if you read Article 1, sovereignty has been equated to representation. Who are these busybodies who want to disregard representation, Mr. Speaker, and rubbish the role of the elected members of parliament, Mr. Speaker? I have one message for you. We have seen the actions, the inactions, the activities, the inadvertence of these busybodies, whoever they are. Can you stand firm? Can you stand firm as members of parliament? It's not about the usual complaining, no. Can you stand firm, bring a constitutional amendment so that we entrench the NCDF in the constitution so that we remove it from the ambit of this gullible and vulnerable busybody, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, for how long shall we deny Kenyans the right to enjoy a piece of the national cake, Mr. Speaker? I'm shocked and dismayed, Mr. Speaker, to see a ruling, and ideally, Mr. Speaker, the role of the three arms of government, Mr. Speaker, is interdependent, is to support each other for the good of the well-being of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. But when you have a targeted approach, Mr. Speaker, to rubbish one arm, then doesn't add value. Finally, what I want to say is this. National security. Are those two functions, Mr. Speaker, county functions? They are not county functions. These are national functions. So, colleagues, if you want to remain relevant, I know it's not the ambit of the members of parliament because we have delinked NCDA from the member of parliament. It's completely an independent entity. That still is being pushed to the member of parliament. I beg you, if you want to remain relevant, if you want your constituents to develop, stand firm, wake up tomorrow, put your heads together, put this entity, entrench it in the constitution so that there is no room for any busybodies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kadambi. Charity Kadambi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Allow me to contribute like my colleagues. In this country, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would wonder which Kenyan has not seen the changes which CDF has really brought in this country. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, my issue is to remind people that what CDF is doing in this country, I doubt if there is another fund which is doing what CDF is doing. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, with the changes, with the poor children we are taking to schools, with the schools we are changing, with the security offices we are constructing, with the administration offices we are doing, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am so much worried that there is people up to now, they have not seen what is happening. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I am contributing because myself being the second-term member of parliament in Joro constituency, what I have done in my constituency, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the first term is what has brought me the second term. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm standing here to remind our colleagues, let us unite this journey. This is war against development. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is now the high time we united as members of parliament. We change even if it means changing the constitution so that we can make sure that the CDF is well anchored in the constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have gotten a lot of challenge every time. Whichever time we are doing our works as members of parliament from single constituencies, actually we are not at peace because every time we are distracted by so many cases in the courts. And Mr. Speaker, sir, as I'm standing here today, Kenyans are asking, are they safe? Are their children going to go to schools? Are they expecting more constructions of schools when they have seen the challenge which has taken recently in the courts? Mr. Speaker, sir, let me confirm that Kenyans are worried that today there is a threat for the CDF. Therefore, for colleagues, please let us wake the 290 constituencies. Let us protect the development. Let us fight for our children. Let us fight for the development for this constituency through CDF. Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you very much. It is for us to unite and say no to whoever is against our development matters. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman CDF. I would have thought you should have been the last to speak on this. The committee chair, listen to others. You'll speak last. Naisula. Chairman, hold your horses. I've been seeing you menacing me with gestures.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to rise to also contribute on the judgment on NGCDF, Mr. Speaker, and to say that we cannot overemphasize the importance of NGCDF in our constituencies, Mr. Speaker. There is this notion among many people that NGCDF is pocket change for members of parliament. I want to say without fear or favor that if there is one fund that there is accountability for, it is NGCDF. NGCDF goes to the constituency with an AIE, with what it is supposed to do, and the money follows that AIE. And so even when auditors come to the ground, Mr. Speaker, they have to go and see whether that classroom has been built. They have to go and see whether that police station has been built. They have to see whether that child has gotten bursary, and that is the truth on the ground, Mr. Speaker. And if there is anybody who thinks that there is a member of parliament who is misusing these monies, Mr. Speaker, we have investigative bodies, Mr. Speaker, which we should go and follow up on those monies and that member of parliament, Mr. Speaker. But we cannot be blanketly be condemned to be corrupt, that NGCDF is our money, Mr. Speaker, when that is not the point, Mr. Speaker. We can also not be a house of lamentation. We are the ones who make the laws in this house, Mr. Speaker. We will not wait for NADCO report to entrench NGCDF in the Constitution. We should extract NGCDF from NADCO reports so that we bring it to this house as a standalone issue to be entrenched in the Constitution. Because we might wait for NADCO reports until God knows the 2 years are over, the 13th Parliament should be remembered as the house that entrenched NGCDF in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, so that this cannot be a ping-pong game depending on who is on the bench, Mr. Speaker. The second issue, the hate that Honorable Junet has talked about is true. People just generally hate members of parliament. And so I wouldn't even be surprised after it has been entrenched in the Constitution, the judiciary saying it is unconstitutionally inside the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, because of just the hate people have towards members of parliament, Mr. Speaker. To conclude, I want to say this, now that I'm on the floor, Mr. Speaker, to remind the executive, Mr. Speaker, that there is one cabinet secretary position which has not been filled in this country, Mr. Speaker. We are
KJ.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it is to say that the courts...
Order, KJ. Yes, so give her 1 minute.
Please allow me to say this, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. 1 minute. There is a position of a cabinet secretary that has not been filled in this country, and I want to remind the executive, just in case they have forgotten, we do not have the cabinet secretary of gender and affirmative action, Mr. Speaker, in this house, Madam Speaker, sorry. If it was another ministry, I want to assure you, by today, the replacement of that cabinet minister would have happened. We cannot continue business when we do not have the cabinet secretary of gender in this country, Mr. Speaker. It should be, the cabinet secretary should be appointed like yesterday, Madam Speaker. Even if it is a man, we need a cabinet secretary of gender in this country.
Thank you. What's your point of order, Honorable Donya?
Madam Speaker, I'm just worried Honorable Junet is insisting that it is a man. We have not refused. If it is a man, a boy, girl, what we want is to have a minister for gender in office. We keep on talking about gender mainstreaming, helping our young girls and women. How can we, Madam Speaker, yes, we know it is CDF, but
Thank you. Honorable KJ, you may proceed. You are on the floor.
Madam Speaker, I thank you and I acknowledge the change of guard. Madam Speaker, the courts had their day. Today it is Parliament that has its day to remind the courts that even the courts can err, that they can make mistake, Mr. Speaker. When you read that judgment, Madam Speaker, you notice a fundamental fault in how they were deciding on this matter. One of the bigger issues, Madam Speaker, they were saying that the constituency cannot be a unit of devolution. But Madam Speaker, we all know that NGCDF is not a devolved fund. In fact, the word that she should be using is that national government has decentralized the monies from the center to the 290 constituency, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker. And it is also to disabuse the notion, Madam Speaker, that anyone can imagine that by removing NGCDF, they are punishing a member of parliament. Madam Speaker, in the Rigathi'S South constituency, the NGCDF is not to benefit John Kiarie. The NGCDF has renovated all primary schools in the constituency. It has built in excess of 7 new schools. Out of the 12 new schools in Nairobi, 7 of them are in the Rigathi'S South constituency. Madam Speaker, it has improved the working status of the officers in Gao, made sure that our people are served in dignified places. So, Madam Speaker, I would want to agree with all the members who are saying that Article 95 and 96 allows this House to make laws, Madam Speaker, and no other entity can make laws. And if that be the case, then we, as the 13th Parliament, must agree that we are the people who are going to entrench this NGCDF in the Constitution so that it can continue bettering the life of members. Finally, Madam Speaker, we all agree that even if we have devolved units called counties, the devolved units called counties has served more as devolution for corruption rather than devolving services to the people. Madam Speaker, Nairobi City County receives in excess of 30 billion Kenya shillings from division of revenue and monies that they raise as own revenue. That means that in the Rigathi'S South constituency every year, I should be feeling the impact of around 2 billion Kenya shillings coming from Nairobi City County coffers, Madam Speaker. But if you go to the constituency called the Rigathi'S South constituency, what you shall find are the projects that have been put up by this most visible, best managed, and most effective fund called the NGCDF. So, Madam Speaker, let's do what is necessary. Let us entrench NGCDF in the Constitution to make.
Honorable members, allow me to recognize the presence of Kiwanzani Academy from Kitui West constituency, Kitui County, who are seated in the public gallery. On behalf of the members of the National Assembly, we welcome you to Bunge. Thank you. The Honorable Amolo Otiende.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first, let me recognize and thank the team of lawyers that did this matter pro bono. Honorable Chepkonga, Honorable Mrugara, Honorable Kaluma, Honorable Mutuse, Honorable Muriu, Honorable Makali, Honorable Soro, Honorable Mogaka, and myself. Madam Speaker, we have no doubt as a team that the decision rendered by the High Court is wrong on so many fronts. It is wrong on the role of the MPs in CDF. It is role and term of the fund account managers who are not in any way connected to the MPs. It is wrong on following the obiter dicta by the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court rendered an opinion on an act that had since been repealed and therefore is not binding. And for the avoidance of doubt, Madam Speaker, we have already agreed that we will appeal that decision. The good thing is that after declaring the act unconstitutional, the court did a suspension of the declaration of invalidity for 2 years. That is enough time for us to prosecute a number of things. It is enough time for us to prosecute the appeal. You will remember, Madam Speaker, that previously the High Court declared the previous act unconstitutional. The Court of Appeal did not agree and affirmed it, and only the High Court then agreed with the only the Supreme Court then agreed with the High Court. It is quite possible that we might follow a similar trajectory on this matter. Madam Speaker, secondly, and this we have said before, the ultimate solution to all this push and pull is amendment of the Constitution. And that amendment, Madam Speaker, we have already agreed, even in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, that we want to make it a standalone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to ventilate on this very wrong judgment which has been passed against NGCDF. Madam Speaker, I was part of the legal team which represented Parliament on this matter. We were able to ventilate on a number of issues, and to our surprise, Madam Speaker, out of 9 key issues, none of them the court was able to appreciate, despite the fact that we were able to put in the proper legal position, the constitutional position, but the court came in as a biased court. Madam Speaker, my worry and concern, because in any trial, you are able to get the things which are not being said, but the petitioners, whose name has been alluded in this house, the Council of Governors, our Senate, they have one key issue, which I would say is a sibling jealousy. In this sense, Madam Speaker, a council could stand before the judges and say, look, now you are members of Parliament, this money you'll be using as pocket money to campaign for it. It tells you the kind of conversations that are being said behind our back. Madam Speaker, I think it's important that we put it very clearly that NGCDF is a fund under the national government, and the national government can be able to spend that money as provided by the Constitution. Second, Madam Speaker, I noted one of the key drivers of NCDF and success level is because 90% of the fund goes to development, things and tangible things which benefit the common person. In the opposite, the County of Governors, they know very well, they spend 90% of their money doing trips and doing other mundane things which has no benefit to our people. Madam Speaker, I'm trying to urge the members of Parliament, let us not lament like people who have no hope. This Parliament has power to ensure that we're able to cure this issue or these myriad issues of litigation against NGCDF once and for all. Though, Madam Speaker, we are going to the...
Let me give the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, then I'll come to you, Honorable Osoro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I just want to inform Senior Counsel Honorable Tiende Amolo that part of the reason they're having problems is the entire legal team was men. There's no women, and yet there are brilliant women lawyers like me in this house. Next time, put us there, and we'll help you. Secondly, Madam Speaker, in areas that have been predominantly opposition, the only fund you can rely on that is changing lives is CDF. Third, Madam Speaker, in my own constituency, I have seen us move from mud-walled, grass-thatched schools to permanent schools. I would want to encourage the judges and people who live in cities to do an immersion in the village so that they know the reality. A lot of people do not know the reality on the ground. The people who are posh in cities, the lawyers and the ones who are lofty, go to the ground and learn the reality. Madam Speaker, I would also want to say that in relation to the law, our judges, especially Supreme Court, have been very liberal and progressive in interpretation of the Constitution. That is why they even interpreted the Constitution to include gay rights. But when it comes to development, then they start telling you, Montesquieu, separation of powers. I have no problem with separation of powers as espoused by Montesquieu many years back. But Montesquieu does not come from my village, Kolo, in Rusinga Island. He does not know what people go through.
That is a very good concept, but something good is finally coming out of Africa, which is the issue of NGCDF. Development. And Madam Speaker, I was just discussing with Honorable Tiende Amolo that we must be brave as lawyers. And if there is one legacy we must leave in this house, is to entrench the fourth role of a member of parliament in this country, which is development. If it does not come through NGCDF, it will come through my pocket. That is the reality. And the members that came before us were overwhelmed. That is why they promoted this. Right now, the role of MPs has totally been removed. But MPs are still being harassed. Put it and make MPs have a role. I have no excuse. Anybody can bash me what they want. But as an intellectual and as a bright lawyer, this is one thing I am willing to defend to my grave. Bora usiguze NGCDF. Wengine wanasema bora usiguze mulima, mimi bora usiguze NGCDF. Hapo tutapigana.
The Honourable Member for South Mugirango, Honourable Sylvan Sosoro.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I also want to associate myself with the sentiments that have been made by my colleagues. And I also do not want to delve so much on the judgment that was delivered last week, because I've actually gone through it. In all aspects, I'm actually against it by all standards, because it actually does not meet jurisprudential, authority in all aspects. I mean, the learned judges, Honorable Speaker, only focused on what we call the school of thought in jurisprudence that we call positivism, where they are so keen on unnecessary positivism and they ignore the element in a very social matter, ignore the socialism jurisprudence, ignore the natural law in all aspects, Honorable Speaker. But I do not want to go that direction, Honorable Speaker. But of importance, Honorable Speaker, for me, it is the character of the Council of Governors. Honorable Speaker, NGCDF is 2.5% of the national budget. Each constituency gets about 130 million thereabout when you do tabulation. County governments get a minimum of 15%. In fact, this house gave them in the last financial year 25% last financial year, about 25 or 26% thereabout. In the last financial year, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when you do tabulation, you'll realize that in the 2.5% that we get, or the constituencies get in terms of the NGCDF, each constituency gets about 120 million at the highest, or 140 million shillings. Honorable Speaker, with the allocated amounts in the counties, some counties that get about 11 billion in the shared revenue, place in their budget 500 million for the office of the governor's expense. 500 million. But NGCDF for the consumption of the common mwananchi, only 100 million. With 11 billion in some counties, and even some of them getting up to 15 billion, you will actually need a microscope, and I've said this several times, to see what governors do. But they were the first people to go in court, Honorable Speaker. They applied to be interested parties in this matter. They even wrote a letter to the Chief Justice. And in now very common character and demeanor of the current court, Honorable Speaker, they've applied what we call judicial activism, populist rulings, populist judgments, where they now get their jurisprudence from Facebook, from social media, from messages they get, and sometimes from some political leaders who are against very important concepts.
The Honourable Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I also want to add my voice to this important debate. And without really repeating what my colleagues have said, I want just to raise three issues. The first one, Honourable Speaker, as a person who has a lot of experience in development matters, Honourable Speaker, the NGCDF as a development model has been confirmed to be one of the best in this world. And that's the reason, Honourable Speaker, why a number of assemblies, national assemblies in different countries, have actually come here to benchmark on this model. And I'm surprised when I see our judges being so ignorant about this important model. The second point, Honorable Speaker, is that when you look at the way this model operates, it's only about 5% which goes to administrative expenses. There is no other development model in this world which uses only 5% in terms of, Honorable Speaker, administrative expenses. And I think that's why my colleagues are saying, Honorable Speaker, that the governors and the senators are getting concerned of an issue. Because if you go to the county governments, the recurrent expenditure, Honorable Speaker, goes all the way up to 70%. So, Honorable Speaker, what worries me most is that our judges, Honorable Speaker, who live in this country, and I do expect they also visit their rural setting, should have seen what development has been done through CDF. And more so, Honorable Speaker, the issue of bursaries to the needy students. They can remove the members of parliament from the program, but if the program is good, Honorable Speaker, I would recommend that we retain the program and get a way of keeping the members of parliament out of it. Even now, we are only patrons, Honorable Speaker. We are not implementers. So, Madam Speaker, what worries me most is a situation where, instead of our judges fixing what is not working, they want to destroy what is working. That is unfortunate, and we cannot allow that. So I want to urge our honorable members, Honorable Speaker, that we make sure this important fund is entrenched in the Constitution, and this House has the power to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, the ball is in our court. Can we do that as soon as possible so that we bury this matter forever? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Migori, Honorable Fatuma Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the country is mourning and our children are very sad. NCDF is the reason why parents smile when they see us when we go back home, because they depend on NCDF. And the court should be aware that this thing does not help a member of parliament at all. We have no business with it. Our business is to give it back to the community where it belongs. It beats logic when the court says that this is unconstitutional. In fact, this should be amongst the 10 commandments of God. It should be the 11th commandment from the human being, because this is the reason why most vulnerable students and children are in school. Members of parliament have always supported these children with their own money. Even the money given by NCDF is not enough. I can imagine in Nyatike sub-county where I come from, the only business we do there is gold mining. It cannot even support our children to go to school. So we run to our members of parliament to get help so that the children can be in school. NCDF does not help rich families, it helps poor families. So we are appealing as Kenyans, not as members of parliament, as Kenyans, that this was a wrong move to deny Kenyans and the population of the children an opportunity to be in school. Look at the scenario now. First of all, it is delayed all the time. And then now it is said it's unconstitutional. So, Madam Speaker, I think that the court needs to sit down and rethink. The judges, I am not against the judges, but I think they should rethink this, reconsider what they said about NCDF. They are not in contact with the people in the village. Their job, their responsibility makes them detached from Wananchi. But if they were to sit in the village and sit with the locals and drink uji with them, they would understand what parents and the children from the vulnerable families are going through. NCDF, it's like devolution itself. Without this, we will reach Nairobi, we will reach the Ministry of Education, even to bring a query to that sector for what is going on through our schools, through our students. So I beg that they reconsider, and instead of telling us 2 years, then they rather just disband parliament, because we have no business being here. Madam Speaker, it is disappointing, and I'm praying that they change their mind.
The Honourable Member for Mwingi West, Honourable Charles Ngusia. Pressing the bell, the intervention.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to join my colleagues in what they have said.
CDF doesn't belong to members of parliament. CDF belongs to Kenyans. CDF, we have got a testimony of the number of people who have been educated, orphans who have become doctors, orphans who have become pilots, orphans who have become lawyers because of the matter of the CDF, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just followed the ruling in the court, and it seems majority of the three judges, actually, they don't have even children in this country. Because they are rich, they think they can only educate their children in London without depending on CDF, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, removing the CDF out of this country is going to be travesty of justice, because it is the only fund we have seen in all over the constituencies, in all the villages in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is the judiciary that money, the CDF money is not for members of parliament. We need to support it. I ask the fellow colleagues, let us move very fast. We'll entrench this fund in the constitution. Let us move very fast, even change the act, even anything that is contagious for these funds, Madam Speaker. I want to support my colleagues, and we are not going to let the CDF to go anywhere. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I support.
The Honorable Didi Raso, member for Saku. Still time, it will get to
Thank you very much,
and we can speak for
Honorable
2 minutes.
Speaker.
More people will participate.
Honorable Speaker, I have this belief that judges and lawyers are the best people in town. But sitting back and listening to that judgment, I have my own doubt that our judges, I think, are not well informed. They do not understand the chemistry, the history, and the character of this country. Without CDF, the children of the Dasanaj, the people who live on the shores of Lake Turkana, will not be able to go to school. The El Molos, the Sakuyes of Dabel. For those of us from the pastoralist communities, the marginalized, we feel that CDF is the fund that has arrived. When on just the span that 3 judges can sit at the bench and say this is unconstitutional. Unconstitutional to who? CDF is about the people of this country. If there are no people, then there's no constitution. What does the constitution serve? Madam Speaker, as a house, we have a duty. Our responsibility is to make laws for this country, and the best laws for that matter. And we must enact the laws for CDF, that it must be enacted in the Constitution, so that those judges must feel that the House has powers to do what is right for the people of this country. Madam Speaker, without CDF, 3/4 of the children of Marsabit today are not going to school. If no CDF, there will not be enough school in the pastoralist areas. But what the MPs have done is to think around, to think out of the box, to allow the people to settle and to allow schools to be put up. Education is the greatest equalizer. If no CDF, then there will be no that equality. For that reason, I agree and I accept what the honorable lawyers who represented us in court are saying. Let us move with the speed and enact the national government CDF in our constitution. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member for South Imenti, Honorable Shadrach Mwiti, who was actually the first this afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Education is a pillar in this country, and for this country to prosper, education is very important. Secondly, Madam Speaker, security is vital to protect our people, and NGCDF is very critical for us to make education and security. Madam Speaker, I concur with my fellow honorable members that NCDF is very important to be dispersed through the honorable members of this House. Madam Speaker, there is a perception, especially from the county government, that the members of the National Assembly don't utilize the funds in the right way. Madam Speaker, if you assess our constituencies, you'll find that most of the projects are done by the members of the National Assembly and not the county government. Madam Speaker, interference of the NCDF means crippling development in the constituencies, and also, Madam Speaker, it means bringing down the central government. The funds from the NCDF are from the central government, and there is no relationship between the NCDF and the funds in the central government. Madam Speaker, I support that the Act should be entrenched so that we can have the funds having disbursed or having no more interference in the future. Madam Speaker, it is frustrating when the legal fraternity is interfering with NCDF, knowing very well that the children of this country, the bright students, and also the disadvantaged students are highly supported by the NCDF. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Baringo North.
Madam Speaker.
Then after that, it's you, Honourable Oundo.
Madam Speaker, thank you. And CDF has played a very critical role when it comes to the marginalized areas, Madam Speaker. We have many constituencies, many areas in the Republic of Kenya which are extremely marginalized. Recently, Madam Speaker, I went to ensure a school which has mud-walled classrooms in my constituency last week to ensure we change the face of that school. And those photos, posting them on my social media, many Kenyans could not believe that we have such kind of schools in some of our constituencies. Without CDF, Madam Speaker, many children who are going through CBC curriculum will not be able to enjoy an environment where they can nurture their talent as far as CBC curriculum is concerned. We not only have such kind of primary schools at the moment in our constituencies, in marginalized areas, but we need to change the face of such kind of schools. If we don't have CDF, Madam Speaker, most of our communities, most of the children of the very poor in marginalized areas will remain disadvantaged, will remain in big problems, and they will not be able to achieve what they are supposed to achieve, because these are, in most of these marginalized areas, you'll find we have very bright kids who can go even to Afant through scholarship if they go through the training process, the schooling process in the most appropriate way. Madam Speaker, I want to rebuke the judgment which was made by the 3 judges. It's high time this House come up with the amendment of the Constitution so that we can entrench CDF in the Constitution, so that kids, children of the very poor can also be able to enjoy the education which other kids of the rich are enjoying. It can't be. It's only in academies where we have proper running atmosphere. Even in those areas, the kids of the very poor, they also deserve proper environment where they can nurture their talent, they can nurture their skills, and they can be children of the world. They can be able to work in every corner of our nation, not only of our nation, but every corner of the world. Madam Speaker, I support what the members have said, and we need to craft.
The Honourable Member for Funyula, Honourable Ounda.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for this opportunity. Let me take this opportunity to sincerely thank our colleagues who stood in for us during this long, odious battle to save the lives of the people of Kenya. Honourable Speaker, I attended the judgment that Friday, and we left with the heavy legs, heavy heart, and I can see my friend Droppings was here with him, and I sincerely felt that it was extremely unfair on the tone and the wording and the way the three judges dispensed of the matter. Honourable Speaker, I want to tell the people of Kenya very, very clearly. Number one, the import of the judgment was that a constituency is not a service delivery center. So it means essentially any person who votes in a constituency is simply a voting machine whose voice cannot be listened in the eyes of the judicial officers. They simply said, Honourable Speaker, they only recognize the counties. They do not recognize the constituencies. In their own words, they said a constituency is merely a center of representation, but it's not a center of service delivery. So they